Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you so much for chiming in today, and I am going to do a little bit of admin here in the very beginning. Please take a moment, hit subscribe, make sure that you're getting the latest and the greatest podcasts downloaded into your favorite platform, whatever that might be, Apple, Google, Spotify, but just hit that subscribe button so we make sure we're getting you all the great conversations and stories that we share here each week. Today, we have a wonderful guest joining us from San Diego, California. We have Dr. Sheila Gujrathi. You have to help me with that last name.
Gujrathi, yeah.
Gujrathi, thank you. We even practiced it before we went live. Thank you, Sheila, for your patience there. My maiden name is McClellan, and everyone struggles to say my maiden name. I'm constantly correcting how to say it. So thank you so much for being here today. We're excited to learn about your latest book that you've done, but also all the amazing work that you've done. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And audience, thank you for being here. We know you have choices as to what podcasts you listen to, and we keep bringing you these amazing, amazing women that are doing incredible work in the world. So thank you for chiming in. So let me give you just a little bit of background on Dr. Sheila so you know why we've invited her to the show today. She is a physician. She's a biotech entrepreneur, an executive and champion for women and other underrepresented groups in leadership. She has a book called The Mirror Effect, a transformative approach to growth for the next generation of female leaders, which offers battle-tested strategies and techniques for owning every room that you step into. And so we're going to talk about a number of things today, her book being one, but where I would really like to get started, Sheila, is how you went from medicine to the boardroom. What was the pivotal moment when you realized you wanted to build and lead biotech companies rather than solely practicing medicine? I mean, that in itself is an incredible legacy to have and role to have, but what sort of was that pivotal moment for you?
Yes, wonderful question. And as you can imagine, very difficult decision as well. So I was told at a very early age that I was going to be a physician. I had two parents who were both doctors. And that was all I knew. I mean, I had a very strong physician identity in my family, so kind of familial pressure. And then for me individually, in terms of my mirrors when I was growing up and what I thought I envisioned myself doing in my career. So I had no, ideas or thoughts about going into biotech, at any point, during my medical training, honestly. And I actually completed all of it. I went to medical school. I did my residency, internship, and fellowship. So I did all of it. But it was really after the practice, after I really learned how to be a physician. Of course, it's a lifelong endeavor, and it's really, a profession, and so much honor in the profession as well. And I was learning so much while during my training period. But when it got back down to like what I was going to be doing day in, day out, when I was finishing my training and about to take an attending role and start, going out on my own with my own research lab and then also taking care of patients, I wasn't excited about it. Like my energy level really dropped. I didn't have the same passion. I wasn't jumping out of bed to like rush into the hospital or into lab. And I just started saying, wow, this is something I need to really pay attention to. And it just reached a point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. I just thought, well, again, I recognized I loved learning about it. I loved the subject matters, and I loved learning about how to take care of patients. It's very much an apprenticeship model, and you're just kind of drinking for the fire hose all the time. But then the day in, day out practice and kind of, doing the research projects, I guess I wasn't as excited about. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I decided to, really take a step back and think about like what I wanted to do in my career. I had already done some of that soul searching when I was in medical school, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I really wanted to be of service. There's this concept called seva in the Hindu religion, and it's very spiritual. It's really about living a life of contribution and service. And through that, you really grow. And so that's what I was embracing. But then I also thought, well, as a physician, you individually have so much impact on your patients and their families. Is there a way for me to have broader impact, beyond just like taking care of one patient at a time? Of course, I could do that through the research arena too, but pretty long timelines. And so I started exploring lots of different areas. I ended up pursuing some more education through consulting. So I signed up to join a consulting firm called McKinsey and Company. And there I became a management consultant. And that was a way for me to get a really great business background and quickly broaden my skill sets and expertise and exposure, because I was jumping into working with lots of healthcare companies, including pharma companies. And I took all of that. I knew I didn't want to be like a lifelong consultant because I really wanted to have ownership. But I took all of that and decided that I wanted to go into biotech. And that was, pretty far along in my career. I've done, again, I did all of my medical training and was, practicing clinician. And then I did this McKinsey consulting, which was like doing another residency, frankly. I had no idea.
No kidding.
Very intense. Just kind of the same level of hours, actually, and intensity, even more because you're traveling all over the place, too. I remember I got sick all the time with viruses and, all sorts of things, feeling kind of run down. But taking all of that and deciding I really wanted to go into biotech, I kind of came back to my physician roots about what was going to be really important for me, and focusing on the patient and developing innovative medicines. I think that all came together within the biotech space. And that was really, and then I joined Genentech as my first biotech company because it was such a leader in the area. And that's, what led to that decision.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, I heard a lot of things as you were explaining sort of the journey, like one, this love of learning, and two, this really listening to that inner drive, that inner voice. And I can only imagine like the amount of courage it took to break the cycle from both your parents being doctors, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, hang on a second, I want to serve in a different way. Which, I mean, that is difficult sometimes when you've been conditioned or expected to follow that same pattern. So
it's very difficult, to your point, because you have a lot of the inner voices that I talk about as well, that conditioning that you don't even recognize how much of what we do is result of some conditioning. So I think that is something that is really, I talk a lot about raising awareness of like what's going on for us internally, like what is our inner narrative, what are the thought patterns and beliefs that we kind of employ day in, day out, and what potentially is holding us back and limiting us. And it was pretty shocking to me to learn very late in my career and stage of life that I was really operating from this place of fear and shoulds, and obligation. And I think just kind of wanting to, really advocate for the younger generations to kind of get in touch with that inner voice really early on. I did a good job of it. I'm really proud of my younger self to have so much courage to make these hard decisions that nobody was making. People thought I was crazy. But I still, even with all that, I think I still had work to do, and I still have work to do. I mean, it's a lifelong endeavor.
Of course, we all do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you learn something and then, you might try that for a bit and then you have to pivot, right? Just similar to what you've described in your career path. So you said something there that really struck me, and that was when we don't listen or when we have that narrative, like you're a doctor as well. What is the physiology effects that takes place over long periods of time when we're not listening to that inner voice, those signals that this is not working anymore, or this is not bringing me the joy or the passion, or whatever adjective you want to put on it? What is that physiology effect?
Yes, and we have to pay attention to it too, right? To your point, I love this question because I often say we complicate things so much with our mind. We can talk ourselves in and out of anything, I think.
So true.
And I think really paying attention to our body, what's happening within our body, has been something that I have really embraced again in my later years. There's a saying that I want to share with you that you probably have already heard, but it's, you always know. We know what's best for us And but the key is to tune into that and pay attention to what our bodies and our minds are telling us. Our body, our heart, our spirit, our mind, and that is the challenge I think for all of us in life, and kind of pushing out these external voices and what they're telling to us, and again paying attention and centering and really grounding ourselves into our own inner voice, our own inner compass, our North Star, our values, all of these. So for me, from a physiologic perspective, I think a lot of it, there's a lot that goes on with my nervous system, where I feel like I can feel like I'm really on edge. My heart's racing. Unfortunately, for the short answer is like our health suffers, I think, for the most part. But, really paying attention to what's happening in your gut, what's happening in your heart, what's happening with your nervous system. Are you feeling more anxious and just kind of on edge? Do you have that sinking feeling in your gut, like when you're saying yes to things that you really don't want to say yes to? We know, like, it's like, and then I say, well, follow our energy, follow your energy, and like try to simplify the questions. Like, am I excited about this? What's my energy level on a scale of 1 to 10? Am I jumping out of bed in the morning, or is it more dread? Am I waking up in the middle of the night? Am I sleeping well? What is happening for me? And what is that engagement? And when I've been in situations where I'm like, yes, I love this, I love what I'm doing, I know what that feels like now. I'm energetic, I'm excited, I'm running into the office. I have so many ideas, versus the, oh my God, I have to go do that. And this is like, and like, oh, I have to go talk to that person. And, a lot of the heaviness and the dread. And so like all those feelings, and then the nervousness also that comes along with, doing things that just aren't really, feeling right to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And so when you were just saying that, you took me back in history for myself, because I remember in my old career, I used to say to my team, if you wake up today and you look in the mirror and you go, oh my God, I don't want to go to work today, you need to come and talk to me. And we need to figure out, either we need to change something that's happening within your environment here, or maybe we're just not the right fit anymore. And that's okay too. We can help you, move on and find the next thing. But so often people do go inside and create this fear that you mentioned. And so then they can't even start to see sort of a way out, right? Or there is so much noise coming at us that it's like, I'm not allowed to think that way or feel that way because I'm going to disappoint. And so that real strong people-pleasing narrative comes into mind. But there is a great consequence if we don't listen. And especially I think for women, because autoimmune is off the charts. Women are, if we internalize this and you feel energetically like in this catabolic state for long periods of time, it will have a physical impact. And so what good are we doing if we're not listening and we start to make those necessary changes?
Yeah, I think long-term studies have shown that, stress is obviously a huge issue with many chronic disorders, autoimmune, cancer, lots of different areas. I think really paying attention and taking care of ourselves too, like that self-care, and making sure that we're eating well and exercising and, really managing all of this risk, because if we don't, it leads to, heart disease, it leads to metabolic disease, autoimmune, so much immune dysregulation. That's my area of specialty. So I really do understand how much stress impacts our immune systems, to your point, and our nervous systems. And then, and all of this. And I think I love what you said though, about, just the paying attention. I think and what drives us to not pay attention. I think as women, we do have a tremendous amount of cultural, societal, familial conditioning. For me, I can speak to from based on my culture. We're not really, taught to even prioritize our needs, or even coached, or we don't even understand what that looks like. We're actually conditioned to not prioritize our needs, to kind of take care of everything else and everyone else. I definitely grew up in that kind of family environment where it was considered selfish to kind of think about, well, what would make me happy? And I actually didn't even know how to connect to my joy, because it wasn't about that. It was really about the obligations, the shoulds, and what, and then to your point, the people pleasing, seeking that external approval and validation, because that was the conditioning I experienced. So I talk about that in the book, about how as women, people of color, other underrepresented groups, we have a lot of conditioning and potentially traumatic experiences that we especially in our younger parts of our life, that we then internalize. And that becomes our familiar space about things that, our familiar mechanism, modus operandi, our familiar MO. And then we go through life like that, not even paying attention to our own voice and what makes us happy and what drives us to be fulfilled and have true joy. And then everyone kind of suffers around us as well. Not only we suffer and everyone else suffers, and our children suffer too, and in terms of your parents or your other loved ones, because you're not really truly happy. So I think that's, again, that's been a lot of my lessons learned through my professional and personal life and journey. And I really love that you're doing this podcast and talking about these things, because I feel like we just haven't spoken about them enough. And I just want that real talk and that transparency for all of us, so that we can kind of embrace and feel empowered to embrace our true self and what we want in our lives day in, day out. And the more we take care of ourselves, the more that we put on our own oxygen mask on first, the more we'll be able to serve everyone around us. So ironically, paradoxically, that's the truth.
I know. It's so true. It's so true. Like, somebody actually said that to me today, because I have a specialist appointment next week, and she called because I was having problems going in the system to verify. And she was like, "How are you, Vicki?" She's this woman. Her name is Angela, but I call her my angel, right? She's just such an amazing woman. And I said to her, I go, "Well, there's some things going on, blah, blah, blah." And she said exactly, she goes, "Vicki, you have to remember to take care of you first, so that you can then take care of everybody else that you're trying to take care of." And it was like, we know this fundamentally, right? But it was just so beautiful the way that she took a pause and she just wanted to remind me, right? And I was like, "Thank you so much. Like, you really are an angel." And I said, "I will be there for my appointment next week. No worries." But I think so often we do neglect ourselves, and it's not intentional. It's just that you get so caught up in everything that's going on around you. And you said something I think that's so incredibly important, is that we see it as being selfish, and it's not selfish. It is, to me, it's selfless, right? Because, to your point, if you're not taking care of you, how on earth can you take care of anyone else? Right? So I love that you said that.
It's so true. I want to serve, but the analogy that I love to use and that I heard from some amazing, teachers was, but we don't want to serve from our cup. We want our cup to be full and overflowing. And then we want to serve from our saucer. So
I like that.
if our cups are not full and overflowing, then we aren't going to be serving people well. Because this is not going to come out in the right way. And if you're really living a life of obligation, which is really the way I was raised, it's just, people know it as well. Your children know it, that your loved ones know it, your employees know it. So it does, that we try, as much as we try to fake it and make it and wear those masks, again, true power and leadership comes from our authenticity. Yeah. And so embracing that and living our life from that place, professionally and personally, is going to be transformative for all of us and for those next generations and for the people that we're really caring about the most in our life.
Love that. Love that. So you've taken it one step further, and you have written a book about the mirror effect, right? And you talk about strategies to help regulate the nervous system. And a minute ago, you mentioned our young people, right? Helping them learn at a much younger age than we did, right? I mean, I know I was in my 50s before I started connecting all these things. And it was like, oh, I wish I had known that when I was in my 20s, 30s, even 40s. So I know you talk about these 5 strategies. Do you want to share maybe just a couple with our audience? Like, how do you start to regulate that nervous system? We're a highly anxious society now.
Yeah, well, first, it's really around raising awareness that we're experiencing that, because we tend to just kind of bulldoze forward, like wake up in the morning, jump on our phones, what needs to get done. And, women are amazing multitaskers. We're doing a lot where, when I wake up, I have my list for my kids, the home, the different companies I'm working with or, founding and building, my book launch. I have like all of these things, and I'm just like constantly doing all of this. And But we're not really, maybe we're not taking the time to center, to take care of ourselves, to prioritize. And then so we kind of, again, just like really a very hyper activated nervous system, so again, raising awareness, like how do you know, when your nervous system is in overdrive, paying attention to those signs and symptoms for you and calibrating. And the way to do that too is finding times to relax and knowing what that feels like when you're centered and grounded and moving slowly, still really effectively and efficiently, but in a different way. So again, paying attention to like when you're in these different states, I think is the first part. And then there's just so much to do that can really great tools that, that really can help regulate that nervous system. And a lot of that for me are breathing exercises, really employing breathing exercises because, otherwise we're like kind of in our chest, we're like just shallow breathing, just like right here versus that deep breathing down into our bellies, down into our abdomen. And again, when you can feel that, and then like, you take those deep breaths and your shoulders drop and you're anchored, connecting to the ground, that again is just a very different feeling. And so again, paying attention to when you're doing the shallow chest breathing versus when you're doing that deeper breathing, I think that's really critical. And then for me, like a third strategy that I use, like I talk about like splashing water on your face as well, and kind of putting your hand on your heart. Like things again to like really, again, this has just become like, and I can do this. I can even do this in a meeting. Someone says, oh, is that really practical or not? But it is like, cause I could be in a meeting and I could just do this. And I know what I'm doing for myself. I'm taking care of myself. I'm saying I'm here for me. I'm paying attention. I'm showing compassion for myself and for even others in the room. And I'm just connecting to me and I'm slowing down, and I'm doing that right now. I'm slowing down, and it's really easy to just kind of do this and feel very connected. And then the more we exercise our muscles, the more we can employ these techniques in all different types of situations at any time of day or night and come back to that centered place. So that's why I really advocate for doing the work up front. It's the first part of my book, Hold Up Your Own Mirror, Know Thyself, because we are powerful beyond measure. But connecting to that space, that truth, living that day in, day out, that's a practice and an exercise. And that's something that's in our control. We can do this. So those are some of the things that I also do. So I will often put my hand on my heart in meetings or difficult situations. It doesn't have to be for very long, but it reminds me of like what I'm trying to do, what my values are, who I am, and that I absolutely belong in this room, at this table, having this conversation. And I'm really proud of myself. Grounding, also that aspect. And then, what I do before meetings a lot are the power poses, like, or I'll even do anything with the meeting, like sitting up straight, like, again, knowing who I am. Yeah, having the courage, taking up some more room, like, it's like, I'm not here to be pushed over, I often have people come at me saying different things, but like holding my ground, leaning in, again, like I'm not afraid. And I've been through a lot. So I have practiced dealing with difficult situations, but still a lot of times I find my FIDs, my fear, insecurity, doubt, shame, get reactive and I get a little triggered and I can feel that. So then at that point, maybe just kind of calibrate again and then come forward. And again, have that compassion for myself because it's coming from this very deep place of that conditioning and trauma for me personally. And I think for many of us, where if someone is, kind of questioning us or whatever triggers we have, there are reasons for that. It's not like we're not crazy. We've gone through difficult experiences and we've walked away from those experiences with certain thought patterns and beliefs about ourselves and the environments we find ourselves in and the people we're working with. Like maybe we don't belong at that table, or, who are we to speak up, and what are we trying to do, and why are we trying to take up space? And it's like, you absolutely do belong there. And the more we can mirror to ourselves and to each other that, that this is our truth. This is the, our new normal and how we should all be operating, and that all this diversity belongs in this room, and there's absolutely, we should not make apologies about it. We should not apologize and make excuses for anything, just do what we think is best and do what we think is right. I mean, that's what I want the new normal to be for all of us.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You made me think of an example the other day. I was at a pitch competition and it was a life science And this young lady, we were wrapping up the event and we were leaving, and this young lady said, "Oh, I really wanted to meet the organizer." And I said, "Well, why didn't you?" And she goes, "Oh, because I'm not doing anything right now. And I just don't, like, what am I going to say to her?" I said, "Hello, I'm, this person's name." And she really struggled with that. And I'm bringing this up because you were talking about the fear, the things that hold us back, the stories we tell ourselves. And so I said to her, "Would you rather go and introduce yourself or walk out of this room and regret that you didn't express your voice?" She looked at me and she went, "Okay, I'll be back." And so I said, "Great, I'll hold the elevator for you." So off she went. She came back 10 minutes later. And I think she was surprised that I was still standing there waiting for her, right? And her reaction was just incredible. I wish I could have encapsulated it in a video, because she was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for just giving me that little push," right? Because, and I said, what were the stories you were telling yourself? And she goes, "Well, I didn't know what she might even, like, why would I even be interesting to her?" And I said, "Well, why wouldn't you be interesting to her?" And so to your point, Dr. Sheila, I think that sometimes that narrative is so entrenched in us. And it's like, you just have to take that one little step, just one time. Because next time she'll think twice. She'll go, "Of course I'm going to go meet that person," right? Then it becomes more of a natural, yes, I'm worthy. Yes, I have something to share. Yes, I have something to contribute. And you said that in the beginning, right? For yourself, you come, for you, it's living a life full of service and contribution. Every person you meet, you're contributing to their life in one way or another, right?
That's exactly right. What a wonderful story of mirroring that you did. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, because that is exactly right. And you were there at the right time to help her, like, step into her power and just go do what she needs to get done. And I think so many of us, like, we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to bother anybody. We're like always doubting ourselves. Why would they even want to talk to us? We're not important enough. We just talk, we think like this. And, in the third part of the book, I talk about make a life worth marrying and setting yourself up for success. And it's like building your network, your personal board of directors. So many women and men have resonated with that and say, "Thank you so much for talking about that," and how important it is that in our life. And we can all do that today for each other and for ourselves. Where are we holding ourselves back? I often will still do that. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'm always kicking myself for not going up and connecting. And I never regret going up and connecting or trying to, because then you'll know, and not taking anything personally. If someone's really busy and they don't have time, totally great. But at least you asked. You're not wondering if you should have or would have or could have. Like no regrets. Like, just go for it.
Yeah. To me, that's one of the most powerful comments and statements, like from an audience perspective. If you take that one thing away today, that is one of the most important. Do not have regrets, right? Like, put yourself out there, say hello, whatever that might be. Like, don't come back, a day, a week, a year from now and go, "Oh, I wish I had asked that question," or "I wish I had made that introduction or been introduced." Just do it. Like, it's not difficult. It's scary, yes, but it's not that difficult. So, Dr. Sheila, you've had a life journey here for sure, and legacy is important to you as well. So, if you were going to start to wrap us up today, what does legacy and impact actually mean for you?
Full question. I was just reading about this as well, like legacy being, so much of our contributions. And, for me, it's really around, the impact I've had beyond me, to help people live better lives and safe and feel safe and feel like they're not alone. I think for me, like, I think a lot of what we do is kind of driven by our own personal experiences. Of course, I started writing this book for my younger self. I think it's the book I wish I had when I was, my younger self, and what I wish for my friends and the next generations to really, dive into. But legacy to me is, again, living that life of service and really helping as many people as I can, and knowing, and then they'll know it when they see it, because all of this has been the gift that keeps on giving back to me. So then taking myself more out of the equation and just thinking about, the greater good in the positive energy and the lifting each other up and everything that we're doing and raising each other's energy and vibrational state and just, that goodness, being at that platform of love and light and like just kind of sharing all of this so that, but really at the core, it's so we feel safe and seen and heard, because if I could bottle that in a pill and take it every day, I would, and I would give it to everyone I know, so that we can, create these environments for each other and live in them in our workplaces and in our home lives. I think that's what it is. So it's really about celebration, commitment, compassion. These are the things, Maya Angelou said it so beautifully. It's not, what you said or what you did, is how people feel. And I think at the end of the day, like that's all we could really hope for, and so legacy is just kind of continuing to bring that positivity into the world and whatever we're doing. And for me, it's through the medicines I've developed and the changes I hopefully am making in the treatment and paradigms of medicine for patients and their families, my children and what they're going to be doing well beyond, me and my husband and my family, that next generation for us personally. And then of course, the next generation that I am impacting, as well, but then also the advocacy work, which kind of goes into all of this and helping others. So that's to me, my legacy.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And where can people find your book? I know that's Amazon is always everybody's favorite place, but we also like to help local as much as possible.
Yeah, they are at some independent bookstores, especially on the West Coast in the Bay Area and then San Diego. Continuing to try to get that in other cities. Of course, Barnes and Nobles, online purchases through their bookstore and Amazon. And then my publisher Amplify has a bookstore where you can actually get a discount on an accompanying journal that I have, because I really wanted this book to be very impactful. So I created an accompanying workbook and journal to go along chapter by chapter with journaling prompts and exercises to really help deepen the lessons learned. I summarize at the end of every chapter in the book, Step Into Your Power, with kind of the key lessons and insights, hopefully from that they've learned from that book, but then making it real for us, exercising those muscles, I think is critical. And there's real research now about how important journaling is to break old patterns of thoughts and beliefs and habits and creating new ones. And in that neuro-linguistic programming cycle that we have internally, and really amplifying cognitive engagement in different areas of our brain to, again, develop new mindsets. Mm-hmm. So I've done this for myself. I've just really employed everything that's worked for me. And I've put that into the workbook journal as well as the overall book.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I didn't realize there was a journal. So thank you for highlighting that. And so if our audience, they walk away from this conversation today and they say, oh, I wish Vicki had asked this question, or I have other questions, how can they find you?
They can follow me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I have a monthly newsletter that comes out as well. So please follow my newsletter and feel free to reach out to me on social media. That's probably the best way. Okay. And I have a website, of course, too, where I store all my newsletters, all my blogs, articles, podcasts, everything, so that people can, really continue to take whatever lessons learned or, whatever pick me up they need. I have so many people say, I just need to hear that at this one time. And it's amazing that, you popped up for me. And so, I want to kind of keep doing more of that for people.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a beautiful conversation. I think it went a little different path than we actually had thought it would go, but that is the beauty of having a live podcast, right? So that we can actually, dive into what the most important things are. And audience that's having a listen to this conversation, if this resonates, leave us a review. Let us know how it resonates. If you have someone in your life who needs to hear about the mirror effect, definitely share this episode with them. Everything that we're doing here, because I also am, my life contribution is about how do I give one thing right? And if that resonates with you and that has an impact on your life, then I've done my job. So, so please do share this episode, and we want to thank you for being here. Dr. Sheila, thank you again for taking the time with us today. I am super grateful, and I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad I'm healthy, and we actually got to have the podcast, and just want to wish you a wonderful holiday season and, kicking off 2026 in a very positive and uplifting way.
Thank you, Vicki, so much. And right back at you. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I think we're all in this together, and that's so important to really embrace. So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And everyone listening, thank you for being here. If you're interested in learning about your leadership and how you're showing up in the world, visit our website at Women in Leadership Empowered, or WIL Empowered. That's one L. Take our free leadership quiz. It'll give you lots of insight as to how you're showing up as a leader. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.wilempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.